Welcome to the Essentially You podcast, Jody DeLeon, also known as my mama. How are you doing, Mom?
I'm great, honey. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to have you. I know we did some orchestrating to make this happen, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on the show right now in the middle of my book launch. And what we're going to be talking about today is really how you redefined 50 and beyond with so much ease and grace and energy. You're such an inspiration to me. So, first and foremost, I know most people are going to be listening to this on iTunes or Spotify or Google Play, but we will have this on YouTube as well in case everyone wants to get a look at you. I know you're in your kind of your marathon running gear today. And let's be honest, you look incredible. And I cannot tell you how inspired I am by you, watching you redefine 50, 55, and beyond. And, I know that you grew up with a very different version of menopause than you are living right now. Now, was there a specific moment for you that shifted your perspective on how these incredible years could feel for you?
Well, I did have a life-changing moment because as you know, and if you read the book, there are a few stories about how I really struggled with perimenopause, but it wasn't until I did a detox and I lost 18 pounds. Detox really initially aren't really set up to lose weight, right? But you do lose weight as a result of it. But for me, it wasn't about losing the weight as much as it was regaining the energy because I had been so low energy and by the end of the day, I just didn't feel like I had a lot left in the tank. So subsequently, I wasn't participating in a lot of things that I wanted to. Or, I'd be at work and I'd be thinking, oh gosh, when can I go home so I can take a nap? So being able to recognize how changing my diet led to a lot of upside where it was about regaining energy. And so for me, it's like a running joke with me, like, how can I buy more energy? But this was definitely a step in the right direction for me.
I love that. So one of the things that kind of helped you kind of let's say perimenopause for you was towards the end of your 40s. And I'll tell a little story. I want to share a little. I'm kind of ashamed of this story, but I'm going to share it anyway. So back in the day when you were, I want to say 48, 49, you were kind of in the throes of perimenopause. And I'll be honest with you, you had always been a superwoman to me. Like you were a single mom. I just want to paint the picture, give people a little bit of context. You're a single mom growing up with my sister and I. You're running your profession, taking care of us. And I know there's probably single mamas listening to this right now who just know that place. Like there's a motherhood is its own thing. And then single motherhood is a whole nother level of it, right? I'm not even a single mom. I can understand and conceptualize, oh my goodness, all the things that you had to be doing at that time. And so for me, watching you grow up, you're always in your power heels. You're always in your power outfits. It's the 80s and 90s. I could hear you coming down wherever you were because your keys would jingle. And I could hear this like step, 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 step. Like this was a woman walking on purpose. So fast forward, you just operating at this capacity and understandably, probably, burning the candle at both ends at some point. And then with the perimenopause chaos, I talk a lot about that on the show here. You definitely were feeling you having that high level, high pressure job, then trying to do all the things. And perimenopause is hitting you. I probably felt like a little bit of a Mack truck, but I remember you telling me you wanted to run this race with me called the Beta Breakers. And I remember training for this race. It's a 7-mile race. It's from one side of San Francisco to the other side of San Francisco with a big old hill in the middle of it. And I remember I was like, okay, I got to train for this because my mom is going to show up for this race. Like if I don't train, I don't know if I'll keep up with her. And so I train and I train and I train and it's the day of, it's today. It's the day we're about to get ready for run. I think we have like little tiara hats on or whatever, because everyone dresses up for this race. And we start to get going. And about 2 miles in, you're kind of struggling. You're struggling with this. I'm thinking we're going to run the whole thing. I know we're going to run the whole thing. And I remember when you started to struggle in it, I look at you and I was like, what is going on with her? Like, why can't she run this race with me? Like, what is going on? And I remember I had to really fight back wanting to say, like, come on, let's do this. Like, let's go. You're the superwoman. Be a superwoman right now. And so we ultimately ended up walking most of that race because whatever was going on, maybe it was an injury, maybe it was just burnout, you being in the middle of it. And I remember feeling, and I'm like I said, I'm so embarrassed to share the story, but I remember feeling so disappointed. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, my super mama isn't so super mama anymore. And and I was like, what is happening to her? And so now I just want to today to like, let's fast forward now to today, you know, you could run miles and miles and miles around me, right? You ran probably 12 miles yesterday morning. I barely got in a 15-minute Peloton strength training workout today, in all the things that I'm going on. I'm very proud of myself for making that happen. I'll be
No, it is. As a new mom, you should be proud of yourself.
But like 12 miles, heck no. Like, let me just, so speak to me into, besides the nutrition piece and reclaiming your energy, from the mama who we couldn't get through the beta breakers to the mama who's like, I'm going to run dozens of marathons, in my 50s. Kind of what was that defining moment for you? Was it just a decision? Was it just like, I want something different? What was it?
Well, actually, Marisa, it was the beta breakers. But let me tell another story because as a comparative, there's a little route that I do. It's fairly simple. It's 4 miles. And I remember, I don't know, it must have been around a holiday and you and Alex were with me.
Yeah, it was
and
Christmas.
So I remember saying, okay, let's do this little run. It's just, a little 4 mile run. And I'm going to do that. So we started running. And then I realized I was feeling really good that day. So I decided to take off. And I not only took off, but I got to the house way ahead of you. In fact, so far ahead that when you guys walked in panting, I was just standing there drinking a cup of coffee. So that was my moment.
Oh, for sure. Oh, no. Yeah. No, you had been consistently running with trainers. Alex and I don't run 4 miles. And no, I think the majority of us, and I knew, I was like, and I remember telling Alex, I'm like, she's about to kick our butt. But we both knew that. We're like, well, I wonder how much of a butt kicking she's going to give us. You are just such a rock star. And I want to speak into the fact, because, talking a little bit about my book, I know you have it in front of you. I got it in front of me. You are clearly my inspiration and my example for what menopause gets to be, and so much of an inspiration for this book. But I know that your menopause ain't your mama's menopause. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a very different thing. One, the way that we were taking care of women way back in the day when your mom was going through menopause, my grandma Rachel.
I remember my father would always pull me aside and he would say, we need to forgive your mother because she's going through the change of life. I never knew what the change of life meant. I do remember him taking me aside and telling me that, but I had no idea. I just remember there was a woman who, when I was young, I would come home from school and she would be singing show tunes. She used to love to go to the movies when she was young and she was a teenager, and she would love musicals. I think that was a lot of what the movies were back then. And she was always singing. And I don't know exactly when it happened, but the singing stopped and it never came back. So for me, I just remember a very altered personality, and that made me really sad.
And I'm sure it wasn't what you were hoping for yourself.
I knew that wasn't what I wanted for myself, certainly. But I think the other thing too is that when you're a mother of daughters, I always tried to set an example, and certainly it just didn't feel normal. It just didn't seem like that's how life should be, that we go through this process and we suffer, and being a woman shouldn't be about suffering. And yet there were so many things that I went through in perimenopause and menopause where I just knew it wasn't right. I just didn't know how to fix it, or I guess I didn't know that it could be fixed. So if anything, I would love women out there to understand that that isn't your normal, feeling angry. I had so many different emotions, I had every month like clockwork. I'd have this like anger build up inside of me that was just ready to erupt. So if anyone would cross my path that would say something that would be upsetting to me, and I was at that quote time of the month, I would just kind of unleash, and how unfair is that? Because it's normally the people that you care about that you do that in front of. And that got to be a more consistent behavior, and one that I didn't want to live with. It wasn't easy. It was very difficult. I love the fact that you recognized those symptoms and you brought it to my attention and you urged me to get checked out. And honestly, it wasn't something that I ever thought could be fixable, or at least understood, because I think when you understand what you're going through, that's kind of step one. And for me, understanding it, even though it took a while for me to feel better, understanding it helped me recognize how to not allow those feelings to overtake me.
I think you're right. I think one of the things you're talking about, like, when your mom, when Grandma Rachel was going through menopause, the change, again, condition driven symptoms associated with it. We don't talk about it. It's taboo, in that generation. And so you didn't know what was going on. And now, and I find still a lot of women are like, what is perimenopause? And I was like, oh goodness, that's literally the roller coaster, that we go through to get to menopause and beyond. And I know that women arrive into their mid to late 40s and say, wait, nobody told me about this. Like no one prepared me for these shifts and changes, that these important hormones that have receptor sites in our brain that connect to our important and critical neurotransmitters, they're decreasing and no one said nothing about it. Can you elaborate a little bit in what were some of those biggest struggles that you wish someone would have prepared you for? That you would have, like, that knowing is so important, because when we know what's going to happen with our bodies, when we understand what's going on with our bodies, we can make a plan to really to execute and to support our bodies. And that's my biggest mission. How can we give women a knowing and understanding of what is going on, have them feel like they're not alone, and then say, okay, now that now that you're recognizing these symptoms, here's the best research on what kind of solutions you can begin to implement. And you can begin to implement preemptively so that you're not going through all of that without any support. What were some of those struggles for you?
Well, I mean, I certainly struggled with, first of all, like excessive bleeding, which led to low iron, which led to fatigue, which led to me just wanting to sleep in the afternoon. I kind of resolved myself, well, this is not going to change. So I just have to get through it. Right. And then I just have to sleep, and that's going to be the solution. But the other thing is recognizing how important diet is during certain times of the month, certainly where you're not trying to overload on sugar, because people will say, and women will say, oh, it's this time of the month and I crave sugar and I crave carbs. In a sense, that's kind of undoing a lot of the good work that if you've been following a good diet, because you definitely feel more fatigue after you eat things like that. And I can certainly attest to that. But the other thing is recognizing when you need extra sleep, but at the same time, trying to maintain some sort of exercise, because I think exercise, I know for me now, it gives me a lot of energy during the day just to get out and do something. And I love the early morning. I'm an early morning person. And you have to recognize what works for you. Some people say, I don't understand how people can get up and do exercise at 4, 5, 6 in the morning. But for me, because I know myself so well, if I wait till the end of the day, I won't do it, because I can think of a million reasons why I wouldn't do it. So I think exercise is key. Eating right is key. Having a sense of community. I am so fortunate, and I will say this, I've had friends that I've had since I was a child. So I have a group of friends, and those are the women that know me so well that I can pick up the phone and call and talk to anytime. But unfortunately, they don't live really close by. But I have a couple of different groups of running friends. I have a group of tennis friends, and I have a group of work friends. And so for me, just surrounding myself with positive people is huge. I am a girl's girl. I love to hang out with my friends. And so I've kind of incorporated exercise and socializing together. So I always tell people I'm a social runner or I'm a social tennis player because I get to do both of those things, fulfill my girl time and also get my exercise in.
I want to speak into that. I want to speak into community a little bit, and I want to speak into exercise and movement. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. Movement is so critical, and I love that you have found the movement that you love, right? And I think that every one of us should really enjoy moving our bodies, however, whatever, if it's Pilates or it's yoga or it's running or it's HIIT training or whatever it is, it's Peloton. Get in where you fit in, whatever feels good to you, as long as it's not burning you out. I always want women to be mindful about burning themselves out when they may be over exercising. We have to just kind of figure that out for ourselves too, knowing what our bodies know. Kind of like some women, if they woke up at 4 a.m. and they were exercised, they may feel burned out, whereas other ones feel very energized. But talk to me about community, because I think that is the critical piece. I know you were listening to my podcast a couple of days ago with another speaker, and we were talking about resilience. And one of the biggest things that we know that can help boost resilience, especially during this really, really stressful time. Because Mama, if I were to paint the picture of all the things that you've been dealing with right now, your dad is sick, you have taken care of your youngest brother, you have a daughter that you're helping to take care of, the other daughter that you have, my sister, we have a grandbaby that you're helping with. There's a lot of things that you're juggling in the air just for family. Like you are wearing a lot of hats, and that's not to talk into your business that you run or all the other things that you do. So one of the things that I think that have been such a big game change for you being able to maintain that level of resilience during this pandemic in particular, as we're coming out of this pandemic, has been community. So talk to me a little bit about, what do you look forward to? Like, what is community for you?
I enjoy just being able to have friends. So community to me is my friend. And I have friends that will get up and do a run with me at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. And it's not just about the running and the exercise, but it's always about, as we gather as a group, inevitably there'll be somebody who's running a few minutes behind that we'll be waiting for. But it's that quick chat, that communication that we have with each other. And there's definitely a movement for women now to recognize that we need to be building each other up. We need to be helping each other. We need to recognize each other's successes and actually help each other get through difficult times. And those few minutes can be life-changing to help me get through the day. I always used to say that whenever we started running the first maybe couple blocks, people will always share with each other how they're feeling. Oh, my leg still hurts a little bit, or, I've been feeling this pain in my back. Or it's a way for us to recognize that our friend may need a little bit of support today. And so I know that we put it out there because we know that by hearing that, we'll kind of take care of each other in that way. We talk and run at the same time, and it's good for endurance, but at the same time, we get that girl time in. And I think that's so important. And I've been lucky enough to, I started learning how to play tennis in my 50s, and now I play tennis with really great group of ladies, and I love that conversation. I'm fortunate enough to, even though I have my own business, I spend a lot of times at certain hospitals, and the women at those hospitals have really embraced me, and I consider many of them my friends. And so just getting invited to activities with them and family events sometimes, it just means so much to me. It makes me feel a part of that community, and that to me is a game changer for me. And I would encourage everybody. And sometimes, people aren't going to reach out to you. So you need to be that person to reach out to them and not be afraid to do that.
I agree. I think we could all take that away. And I think especially for us as women, as givers, we're definitely the givers of the world. But having that support system in our friendship is so critical. I think that's one of the best ways that we can get and maintain our resilience throughout some difficult times, whatever family stuff you've got going on or work stuff you've got going on. I mean, having a great support friend group. And that's one of the things that's been so inspiring to me, for you, is watching you have these beautiful cultivated relationships, having all these stress release mechanisms put in place. So when things do bubble up, when things get really crazy, you have a great support system to help support you there. And you've got self-care habits to help support you as well. Now, I do want to shift the conversation because one of the things that I've been hearing my entire life, at least since I was like 18 years old, is that everyone is always shocked. I mean, the look is obvious. And they're not faking it, because sometimes people will say, oh my gosh, you guys look like sisters. No, this is real. Everywhere and anywhere we've ever been, my entire adult life, everyone's like, oh my gosh, that can't be your mom. That's got to be your sister. And I have a feeling you quite, I mean, I would enjoy it if I were you. So I want to talk about your youthfulness. And not only are you just gorgeous, but you just have this youthful glow. You always show up with energy. All of my friends have always loved you because you have this really great outward energy that you bring to the table. You're very fun. You are abuela to Kingston, baby Kingston, and you always dress up for Kingston. You always show up, you're full makeup. I don't even dress up for Kingston.
I wore a new dress when Marisa brought Kingston home from the hospital. I had this new dress on, and Marisa said, oh, you're kind of dressed up. And I said, well, I put on a new dress today for Kingston. Kingston.
And so talk to me about what have been some of your favorite ways in which, or your favorite tips for staying youthful, especially no matter what, you're so timeless. You're so ageless. What are some of the things that you have done to really maintain that youth? And that's what I meant, like, by redefining these years, is that you've just decided that you're going to look the way you want to look no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So talk to me about that. I hope to look as good as you.
I definitely color my grays. I have a young hairdresser who I love. I feel like George is like family to me. So find someone who loves to make women feel beautiful, and he certainly is that. So, hey, George, shout out to George. But I love lip gloss, and I love fun exercise clothes. I love fun tennis clothes. So I think if you're going to go do an activity, wear something that makes you happy. I get a lot of sleep. I don't drink much alcohol, and that's always been kind of my thing. I don't stay up late. Sugar's a whole different thing. I do have the sugar struggle. We know that. I think love is certainly a way to keep you youthful, right? Whether it's your friends, your family, pets, love and gratitude, right? Always be grateful. Sometimes when I get up early in the morning and it's still dark outside, and I'm so grateful to have friends that I can share that time with. It's beautiful. There's just quiet, tranquil time in the morning. And I love to see the sunrise. That makes me happy.
Yeah, I love it. I think movement probably definitely plays a role for you. I know that as we were talking about all the marathons you want to run this year, because marathons and running they're coming back. A lot of things are coming back online as we're starting to feel safer, and people are getting set up to be able to see family and do things again. And
Yes.
So you're already kind of planning, I think looking forward to things is also probably
That's
a very
true.
youthful strategy.
Yes. It's funny because I'm trying to get back into my 4 a.m. running group. And I know that's a crazy hour, but I had mentioned to one of the girls that, I have a race coming up next month. I actually have the Yosemite Half Marathon next month. And, I haven't been really training as hard as I normally do, but one of the girls reminded me that I needed to come back and start running with them because I needed to get my training in. When I didn't show up on Tuesday morning because I had to make a quick trip a couple hours away to take care of some things that my dad, he was in the hospital. She messaged me right away on Tuesday and said, hey, how come you didn't show up? And, I kind of shared with her, and she sympathized with me, but it was that accountability too that made me feel, really good that someone was actually thinking about me. But and yeah, I've run 9 marathons. I would like to make at least 10. There's 2 I have on my list. I have signed up for 4 half marathons that have been carryovers from when they had to be deferred because of the pandemic. So I'm really excited to run those. I think I've probably run somewhere around 60 some half marathons, but I just love the energy. I love the energy of being out there, and it's exciting. And like I shared with you once before, I would love to encourage women and start some type of training program to help women run at least a 5K, because I think there's just something very exhilarating about crossing a finish line and getting a medal and just that sense of accomplishment.
I love that. Yeah, I'm really excited to see that come to fruition. Well, my last question for you today is what is your advice to women listening today on how to redefine menopause for themselves on their terms? What can we do? I know you've given so much today in terms of the things that you're doing on the daily. What are some things that you would recommend? If someone's listening to this right now and saying, you know what, I want to reclaim how this looks. I really want to do the things that light me up and to set my soul on fire. How can we kind of tap into that?
Well, I think probably the most important thing is because of social media, we have a tendency to compare ourselves to other people. I think the most important thing is don't compare yourself to anybody else and to really think about what you would like to accomplish, because I think setting goals is really important and it doesn't have to be anything huge. I mean, I will tell you that's the thing I love about running a race because I can't compare myself to anybody else. It's just me and my journey, just like this is going to be you and your journey. So it doesn't have to be big, create a vision board and think about something small, something that's important to you that you would like to accomplish. Having a friend many times, if it's some type of an exercise goal, if it's a changing your diet goal, the accountability and the friendship can really help you a lot towards achieving your goal. But I think the most important thing is to stay positive and not to compare yourself. One of the other things we were kind of laughing about, and that is that I have a lot of friends that are much younger than me, which is kind of fun because I always think, well, if I spend time with younger people, then I'm going to feel like them. So I'll feel younger inside too.
I love
Yeah.
that too. I think that's such a great thing to have people, yeah, of all different ages. We get such different perspectives from everyone in their journey, especially like, different age groups. I love that idea a lot. Well, Mama, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. And, I want to just take a moment. And as I mentioned earlier, I was so inspired, when I was thinking about writing my eighth book, which is this book that's coming out right now, or just came out last week, The Essential Oils Menopause Solution. You were such a big impetus for that. I remember your struggles and I remember thinking, that in hindsight, I wish I would have been on top of it a little bit earlier for you and recognizing that I saw so many women in your journey. When I was, one of the things I share is when I was on tour for the last book, The Essential Oils Hormone Solution, I was amazed at how many women came up to me who were in their late 40s and their 50s, even in their 60s, and asked, was there anything in this book for me? And that was that defining moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to write this book. Because I remember my mom going through this. And I thought of you like, wow, what if everyone could just be on the other side of that or could ease through it and then be on the other side and be living the kind of life that you are living every single day. And that was the impetus for the book. So I want to just say, take a moment and say thank you for that, because I hope that through that, a lot of women get a lot of benefit from all the wonderful solutions that are offered in it.
Goodness, I do too. And thank you. Thank you for all of your hard work and doing what you do. I've known that since you were a young lady, you always wanted to be helpful to other women. And that's such a gift.
Thank
And I
you.
love you for that.
Oh, thanks, Mama.
Here's
All
the
right.
book.
There's the book.
Thank you for
Yes.
my coffee.
I know I still got to sign your copy, but I promise
Yes,
to do
please.
so ASAP. And I just want to say, if anyone's looking to grab the book, we will have it in the show notes for this episode. It's also on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the places books are sold, even international. Definitely, if there's someone in your life, if there is a Jody in your life or someone in your life that needs this book, give a gift. Like I love that women pay it forward. I know for me, I love buying books for my best friends. I love buying books for all kinds of people. I know I've bought you several books this year
You
that I was like,
have,
Mom,
and
you got to
I
have this
love
book.
them
Yeah.
all.
And
Yes.
so I'm very much of that kind of way. I'm like, this is a book you've got to read. And
Yes.
so if you're feeling that way, you're listening and there's someone in your life that you feel like, oh my God, you got to have this, then it's so easy to ship it on over. All right,
That's right.
Mama, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'm sending you so much love for your next race coming up. And I love you so much.
I love you too. Bye,
Bye.
Bea.